The Chiefs and the Raiders. Chiefs win this game 31-0.
You probably could have just said the Chiefs because they were the only one that showed up.
I know, but I was looking something up, and then I didn't remember which game we were going to next, and I knew it was the Chiefs, and then I had to get to the Raiders eventually. That's how we got there. It's a slow start for me. It's a slow start for the Raiders.
No, it's all good.
Top 5 graded players that we have for the Kansas City Chiefs in this absolute shellacking. Defensive tackle Chris Jones with a 91.9. Center Creed Humphrey with a 91.0. Wide receiver Rashee Rice, first game back in action. We'll talk about him a little bit more, an 86.5. Offensive tackle Mike Caliendo, a 77.1. Offensive guard Kingsley Suamataia with a 74.7. And then Patrick Mahomes in this game, a 67.4. On the Raiders side of things, edge rusher Charles Snowden was their top-graded player with a 72.7. Cornerback Eric Stokes, a 68.4. Running back Ashton Genty with a 67.7. Edge rusher Malcolm Kuntz, a 66.8. And then wide receiver Deontay Thornton Jr., a 63.1. Geno Smith in this game, overall grade of a 56.1. Dalton Stat told the story.
We were sitting there watching this, and as much as there's the yardage stats and the first downs, I mean, yards was 436.
You could rattle them off because we need to. It's one of the most incredible beatdowns we're going to see this year and maybe over the last couple of years.
This was, I mean, and first downs was 30-3, which is just insane. The Chiefs had the ball for 42 minutes. The stat that got me the most, actually, and I was telling you this when we were sitting upstairs watching it, the Raiders officially only ran 30 offensive plays in this game. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that. I had to dig back in on 20 years of data. That is the fewest, at least since 2006. That's the fewest number of offensive plays a team has officially run in a game since at least 2006. The next closest, I went back to through every year, and most years the lowest hovers around 40. You get some 37s and 38s. The next lowest one, funny enough, was actually Week 18 last year, the Chiefs, when they didn't play anybody against Denver, when they played when they played Carson Wentz and basically just didn't even want to play the game.
Yeah.
That team that day against Denver ran 33 plays, and they weren't even trying. And the Raiders ran 30. 30 plays officially the Raiders offense ran in this game. It's the lowest since at least 2006. It's the lowest that we have on record.
Yeah.
I even remember seeing some games that, working maybe a couple of games where a team ran 42 or 44. It made for a real easy day when you were working that offense. But that one says it all to me. That's the lowest we have in 20 years of doing this, is a team running 30 plays on offense.
It's pretty crazy how you can absolutely dominate a team start to finish like that.
In the NFL. I mean, this isn't Ohio State and playing some Division II team. It's the NFL.
Raiders were 0 for 7 on third down. They had one third down of less than 5 yards all game. So third and this situation, they had one that was less than 5. 3 of their third downs were 12 yards or more to go. And on first down, they had an EPA per play of negative 0.516, which is extremely low. Somehow, the Dolphins were worse. I thought I was going to read that stat on this show, and I was going to be like, oh, that was by far the lowest that we had this week.
It has to be.
The Dolphins were low.
It has to be turnovers. Because I believe.
Well, sure.
Am I right in thinking? I don't think the Raiders didn't turn the ball over in this game.
No. And that goes into I think a lot of people are going to be like, how are Mahomes and Geno's grades so similar? Well, Geno, a little bit of the same way that we talked about Justin Fields last week. It's just he just didn't throw the ball a lot. They just didn't have a lot of opportunities on the offensive side of the ball. And Patrick Mahomes, when it comes to the grades, are about assessing the execution that a player has given the context on a single play. And Mahomes obviously was better in this game in the production and the results side of things. But Mahomes also had 2 turnover-worthy plays, which we don't forget. I think a lot of people forget about those when they aren't actually caught. But you go back and you look at the 2 what should have been interceptions, the dropped interceptions in this game. I mean, they are poor throws by Mahomes. One of them, the first one, that would have been a pick 6.
Yeah.
That absolutely would have been a pick 6. And so it's that's where I think some people kind of look at the grades and they wonder how could we get to this point? Is because we're grading the execution of how a player is playing on a single play for an entire game. And so everything counts. And obviously Mahomes' output was fantastic in this game, but almost I think it was, what was it, like 168 of the 100 or 286 passing yards that he had came after the catch.
Yeah, it was still a relatively conservative Chiefs way of going about the game plan. So he did, and against this team, he didn't have to fire at 40 yards downfield all the time.
Right.
So
he didn't have to do a lot of difficult things in this game to win this game because they were absolutely destroying the Raiders in basically everything else. And he was executing correctly. And again, we'll try to be much more transparent, especially of what was last week for us. But we'll try to be so much more transparent about this. Remember, guys, like all the players, they started a 60. Like this isn't grades that you got in school where a 60 is a D- and nearly a failing grade. 60 is sort of like what you start out at every single game. So Mahomes' grade was obviously higher than a 60 because he did some little things here and there that were some nice throws for a first down, things like that. He had a couple of plays, I believe, on the ground, which helped his grade as well because he's been great as a runner this season. He just wasn't asked to do a lot of difficult stuff because they were absolutely whooping on the Raiders so bad. And then when you factor in those 2 turnover-worthy plays where those were poor execution plays from Mahomes, that's how we get to the grade. And people want it to be this just like giant Grand Canyon sometimes of if the box score reads like this for a player who won and if the box score reads like this for a player who didn't. This is actually the type of game where you go like, yeah, I mean, like Geno didn't do anything to really ruin his grade, but the team overall didn't do anything honestly, nearly enough to win.
Any Raiders, 2 things here. Mahomes first. Basically what you have is a really solid game where he made 2 mistakes he got away with. That's essentially what you have.
Right.
And the Raiders, honestly, any Raiders offensive grades in this game, you really can't read anything into them because it's only 30 snaps. You can't even – it's really more about they just weren't on the field at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing – so it's like we can't really give Geno a 27 grade for not being on the field.
Right.
I mean, that's sucks. But, it's like there's not enough there. So anything Raiders-wise on offense, the only thing I will say offensively for them is how bad they just missed Colton Miller, and this offensive line is struggling this year more than we thought it would. Mm-hmm. I think that's the big one coming out of this for me because it just felt like from the very first drive, it was like, oh, nothing's going to work today, just nothing.
No, and clearly it didn't.
Yeah, no. So I mean, no. And as far as this is the ultimate. I guess probably more so than just taking care of business. This was just as one-sided a ball game as you could watch.
Most impressive, most disappointing.
I think for me, one of the superstars that we talk about a lot around here, maybe still gets underrated around the league. Chiefs still have the best center in football in Creed Humphrey. Let's just
easily.
I mean, 1 pressure allowed, and they were on the field a lot. Only 1 pressure allowed, 90 run blocking grade, 11 positively graded blocks in this game, 9 in the run game. 2 on screens where he's getting out in open space, bullying people. 2 great as a pass blocker. I mean, he showed you. I mean, a lot of guys on the Chiefs showed you why they're so good and why they're getting red hot right now. Mahomes outside of 2 plays, Rashee Rice coming back with 2 touchdowns. The run game looked good, but Creed Humphrey in the middle of it all at center, we need to not forget about him because he's as valuable as any player on this team. And the one other thing I'm going to throw out there with this Chiefs offense, and you started to see it, they're starting to figure out what the weapon Brashard Smith looks like.
Yeah, your boy.
Backfield.
Your boy.
Listen.
And you love this landing spot for him, too.
Couldn't have been better.
No, I agree with you.
Not have been better.
It was only a matter of time before he started to go.
He went in round 7. I would have taken him in round 4, honestly. I was that high on him.
I would have absolutely taken him 4 or 5.
The experience as a former receiver, the experience in the backfield, the great year he had at SMU, but Andy Reid's starting to find this groove of all the different little things I can do for maybe even 10 touches a game with Brashard Smith. That's going to play a factor moving forward here. He's only going to experiment more with that. The Chiefs just have so many weapons. It's unbelievable.
Rashee Rice. I want to talk about him specifically, but not just the overall output, not just like, okay, here's the targets, here's the catches. Specifically, the value that I think that you could get from this game for Rashee Rice is in the red zone. And maybe even less of the red zone from the 10-yard line in, right? I think that's where Patrick Mahomes really shines in his execution, how quickly he recognizes things, gets the ball where it needs to. That's why he's one of the best in the world at what he does. Andy Reid, that's why he's one of the best in the world at what he does, right? Because when space is at a premium, you've still got to be able to execute. And Rashee Rice, I think, is absolutely a weapon for them in the 10-yard line and in getting into the end zone. With that stipulation, 81.7 overall offensive grade from Rashee Rice. I think that he really elevates this red zone offense for them. They were outside of the top 10 in red zone execution before this week. Now they're like, I think it's 7th or 8th because it went up because they had a fantastic day in the red zone. But specifically, it's how they use him in motion, how they use him on the outside, how they use him as a rusher, like how he scored this past week, the quick play, the speed outs, things like that. Rashee Rice, to me, is going to be who they maybe lean on the most when they get into that area of the field because of the type of player he is and that true security blanket and offensive X factor that he has been for the Chiefs over the last couple of years. So anybody does a little sports betting out there, anytime touchdown Rashee Rice, I feel like I'm going to be pretty keen on that over the next couple of weeks, and just maybe it might be something that I'd like throw a little bit on every single week, especially if we have a good matchup in our player prop tool over on the PFF app that says like, hey, this is a pretty good week to be able to execute in the red zone. This team's not really great at defending it. Rashee Rice is that player that I would lean on because I think he's going to be huge for the Chiefs to once again establish themselves as one of the most effective offenses in the NFL because they're able to convert 7 instead of 3 when they get into these advantageous areas, and I think that Rice is going to be a big reason why.
For sure. In the open field, first of all, Rice's skill set, he's just such a crafty separator that he's more than anybody else on that team. Him and Travis Kelce has the experience also, but Rice is more explosive now. Rice is a guy who knows how to get himself open underneath. So in the open field, you've got all the speed threats, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, right? I mean, you've got all the speed threats taking the top off, and Rice works underneath. But when those guys can't be there for that, when Xavier Worthy can't really be the red zone guy because that's not his skill set, now getting Rice back in there and everything he can do, either getting open in the end zone or working after the catch, or even in the screen game, like with the jet pop pass that he scored on the first touchdown, it gives you so many more options as opposed to, all right, we got to pound it with the run game, or we got to figure out something with these tight ends. He's really a huge X factor now if the Chiefs want to get back to where they usually get to.
Anything else before we get out?
Nope.
All
that's right. The Raiders are that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games where you just go, okay, next week.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have to. There's nothing to take away from this game from the Raiders other than the fact that you can't have another performance like this again, or you start really getting worried about what's going on from a week-to-week basis. But I don't think that Pete Carroll's, like, doing this for a check. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Pete Carroll's like a football guy. Like, Pete Carroll loves this game. He loves being a coach. So if I thought that Carroll was sort of just like coming back to cash a check, I'd be a little bit more concerned. I'm not really at this point, but it is one of those games where you just got to throw it out and you got to go to next week if you're the Raiders.